Video blog, Chicago. Seeing how effective the city is with their plow units, right? I just saw one plow here. So somebody notified me my lights were off. Well, that's a nice gesture. I just turned them on. I've been doing that since I've been driving, and that means I've been doing it for 43 years, letting people know their lights were off and tail lights were out or a headlight was out. Now, I stopped doing it more recently, truly in the last 10 years, but before that, I've been doing it my whole life. Some people, I put notes on their car, your rear tire is low on air. I put a Fix-A-Flat next to it. People in my complex, I did this. This stuff is normal for me, that I've been doing my whole life. You don't understand how extensive. And I'm not saying people need, back then, it was hard to get a hold of AAA. I grew up as a child, I used to shovel people out and push their cars. And then sometimes they gave you a few bucks, but most of the time it was just thanks. Truly, I've helped so many people on highways and you name it. But now there's AAA. Insurance has roadside assistance. And now lithium batteries are getting better. So those things, and it's right, as God, those things aren't needed. It's more about personal responsibility now. You have Star 999. They have IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation, their trucks that come out to assist you. And I assume they have a phone you can use if you need to call a private tow company. And AAA should take on the spot. Truly. You have to register, and if you cancel, they charge you for the year in advance, but you can get AAA on the spot. You just call and say, I don't have AAA, but I need, and I'll pay for the membership. Okay. So can I get your credit card and everything? We'll go through, fill this out, then the truck dispatching right now. I'll put you on hold and we can finish this up, and as we're finishing up, the truck will be on its way. So they should allow you to get it instantly. So again, taking personal responsibility. It's not the days of old anymore. So these people need to get their tow trucks themselves. They need to fix the flat and call AAA. And they need to tell them on the spot, if you don't have a membership, no problem. And you're in a bind, call us. We'll set up a payment plan and do your thing right away. Necessity is the mother of business in that way. So they have a hardship, like a plumber. I'm like, oh, you have a client. Okay, how about we set up a maintenance plan for your place? Once I clean out the toilet and solve the block, we can have maintenance, and I'll come out and check your toilets and pipes every 6 months, like the dentist. You go in to get your teeth cleaned and checked. Well, I'll come out and check on your toilets and check your piping. Truly. Make sure everything's in good order. And then if you need, in the winterize, we'll do things like if you have water lines that are exposed to the outside wall, we can work with those people that do what? Foam installation. We don't want to cut up the wall and tear them up to insulate the pipes. No. We'll just spray foam insulation into the walls, and then that foam insulation will wrap around the piping and insulate your water pipes, hot and cold water pipes. So we don't want them to freeze up and crack. It protects the pipe. Metal is susceptible to temperature, and if you protect them with insulation, that's less stress on the metal, and the pipes will last longer and be able to take more stress. So we'll work with foam insulation. We'll cut a little hole here, and my guy will identify it through imaging systems now where the pipes are and look at the plans for the house, but we'll confirm the piping. And then we'll go in and we'll insulate those pipes that are on the exterior walls, making sure they're protected so they don't freeze in the winter and crack. So we'll do this, and then, I'll continue on with the maintenance plan so you never get a big bill from us. Like coming in for car maintenance. You can set up a preventive maintenance plan and they just come in. And you check out the car. And it's not an oil change, but it's just like anything else. It's regular maintenance, and you check up and you inspect the tires and the alignment and everything else, and then give them a bill of health. And saying, just to let you know, you got, 1/3 left on your brake pads. And, to let you know, the more you wear down your brake pads, the longer it takes for the caliper to close. Do you know that? ABS doesn't function as well. It functions better when the brake pads are full. It takes longer for the repetitions when the brake pad wears down. But this is because they're stupid systems. They don't adjust for the length of the brake pad. A smart system would adjust the rate of the caliper for the distance from the cylinder. They don't do that in auto racing. The brake pads wear, and the braking gets worse as the race goes on, not better. Because the pads wear down and they become further distance, and so the car's reaction time goes down. And so you have more auto racing, high-speed racing, more accidents. So, again, cutting that ability down by having calipers that adjust so they can compensate for the wear on the braking pad, keeping the braking the same. But remember, heat displacement, when the brake pad gets thinner, heat displacement is less. The pad absorbs less of the heat, and so there's less transfer of heat from the cylinder to the pad. And so the brake cylinders get hotter, whether it's a drum brake or, a rotary brake. The rotary cylinder, it's the wrong word. The rotary gets hotter. The disc gets hotter because there's less transfer into the pad. And so there's less sharing of the heat. So when the pads wear down, we have stupid braking systems. I came up decades ago with smart braking systems that adjust all this stuff. You're not aware of all the work I've been doing. Somebody says they're ahead of me. No one's ahead of me. That would just be a pure piece of freaking lying piece of garbage. So again, we need to move from the stupid systems into the smart systems and improve safety. So, again, and I hope Chicago becomes like a Nazi on jaywalking. As I shared the stories last night about the incidents with jaywalkers who are doing the wrong and cause serious problems for people. But in Japan, they'll throw you in jail for 3 months for jaywalking. They don't mess around. Either you're complying with the law or you're going to jail. Now, my license plate, it was all packed down with snow, And so the license plate can be anti-stick. You know, they want to make the license plate in a way that it doesn't get impaired, right? You would think Jesse Jackson and all them, or Jesse White, you would think he would be designing license plates that, you know, are self-cleaning, that dirt can't stick to it, that snow can't stick to it, that they can't impair. And I like Chicago and Illinois because you have to have 2 license plates, one in the front and one in the back. That means they got to make double license plates. States that only require one, I hate. It makes it easier for people to get away with a crime. I think it should be mandatory by the federal government that every state requires front and back plates. And they need to do a good job of making the plates easily identifiable. Because this is what serial killers did. They took all the decals off the car, and then they bought the most common small car. They bought a subcompact, and they bought it as black or dark blue, and they took all the details off because they wanted to look like they bought a car like a Pinto or something. I forget what it was, but it looked like a Chrysler. It looked like a Ford. It looked like a Toyota. He made sure the style of the body of the car was very similar between different car companies. So that car looked very similar to a car that GM makes, a car that Ford makes, a car that Toyota makes, a car that Honda makes. Truly, the subcompacts, their design weren't varied enough, and they were highly similar in look. And so he took all the details off, so you didn't see, you know, the icon that says Ford or Chrysler or Honda or Toyota. He took all that marking off. When my Honda came off, you can ask, on my car that I had 500,000 miles, I went to the dealership and bought the Honda and stuck it back on my car. So my car could be identified as a Honda Accord. It said Honda Accord. And it came off, and I got another one. Didn't fall off on the street, but it came off, and I got another one. I got all the markings updated, so you knew my car was a Honda Accord. So what did he do? So there were literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in an area that his car looked similar to. And no one caught the license plate because he had things that blurred the plate. Didn't have a front plate, only a back plate. And he had things that blurred the back plate. Now, he was killing prostitutes. Lots of them. But the thing is, no one can identify the car. And there are lots of them around, so the call girls, they don't know. There's so many of those cars, and they run into people with those types of cars, that how can they be on the watch? Truly, because they couldn't describe the car. They didn't know if it was this or that and that. So the girls couldn't protect themselves. He was highly smart at what he did. And no, the police never got him. A girl woke up that he drugged, woke up and then ran out naked and ran across to his neighbors pounding on the door. They opened and called the police on him. The police had no idea who he was. They had no clue. Like the Unabomber, if the brother didn't turn him in, the cops had no clue. No clue who the Unabomber was. The police had no leads. They had no clue. This guy was racking up, killing girls left and right. This is why I hate the police. I hate government. They are so incompetent, it makes me sick how incompetent they are. I mean, they are so incompetent. They're going to burn in hell. They've done me such a great disservice in how lazy and incompetent they are, from the federal to the state to the county to the local. They should be highly motivated people. And you shouldn't be hired by a government agency unless you're a highly motivated people. What did they do? They hired people that were lazy sloths. And they would milk the clock. Everywhere I went, they were milking the freaking clock. The government employees milking the clock. They just learned. They just go in and punch the clock, and then they do nothing, and they punch the clock out, and they just milk the clock. And they were, beautiful girl. But again, it doesn't make any sense. They're so incompetent. So here's the Peninsula Hotel. My friend Chocolate Thunder worked here, who I worked. He was a great bartender, black guy. Good personality, fast. And the reason he was called Chocolate Thunder, he liked to make chocolate martinis. Yeah, it was his favorite thing to do, chocolate martinis. And he was really quick. He worked at the Peninsula in the banquets. He was a great bartender. He's a good guy. He never did me wrong ever. Yeah, Damon. I went and visited him one time just to say hi. And he was working upstairs on the veranda, and I just went in and I'm like, hi. I stood there for a few minutes and I said, just want to say hi, and so on, and hopefully things are going well with you and Fawn, and so on. And that's it. I haven't talked to him since. But he never screwed me over, and Fawn never screwed me over. And so, and she went to the White Elephant, I think it is. I don't know where she is, but she was a bar manager. But she did me right. She hired me. And so the two of them, it was good working with them when they were behind the bar. But she never, it was Andy and many others who did me wrong. But those two did not. So anyways, it's a great hotel, but they have all these people, they have no clue. With all the stuff and all the technology and all the support training, how do they have no clue? Truly, how is it possible that these people get away with crimes and they have no clue? And you know what incentivizes them? And I found out they grow up in elementary school. And they do things and get away with crimes in elementary school. Then they go into high school and they get away with criminal activity in high school. And they sharpen what? Their capabilities through elementary school, stealing things. And they get away with it. And then they go into college. Like Corey's history. He stole credit cards, bikes. Believe me, he must have been doing it in high school and elementary school as well. And the thing is, they don't punish kids. They let them get away with stealing school supplies, damaging property in the school. They let them get away with all these crimes. And they grow up to be little juvenile delinquents because they turn a blind eye. What do you think? Watch the movie with Robert De Niro where he's the bus driver. Like this guy behind me. You know, you're supposed to stay a good distance away because the streets are wet. But this guy behind me is tailgating me. There's an open lane there. You can't be tailgating me. Look at this piece of garbage here. BP 93028. It's a Sonata 4-door black. Take the shit out of them! And the funny thing is, do you know I had girls like Jules and that? Not Weiser's sister, my other friend Jules. And she loved me. And if you mess with me and you were, say, a guy, that girl threw down and she would go psycho on you. I mean psycho. And I know a lot of guys that she got and were very much afraid of her. And she used to, and I didn't need protection, but still, she believed no one had a right to disrespect me. And she would go psycho. Now, Lucia's another girl, but she carried a gun. And if you disrespect me, you might have a 45 pointed at your head. And they weren't messing around. See, these girls, they weren't afraid to drop people. Unlike other girls, these girls, they would F you up in a heartbeat. And they believed that I deserved absolute respect. And I never asked them for it. They just gave it to me. They believed, because they saw me and how I acted, that I deserved absolute respect. They were in the clubs. And those girls watched over me. And I always appreciated it. Truly, I could go and sleep on their couch and so on. I didn't date them. We were just good friends. But they had my back. And I've seen them get in confrontations, and you didn't want to be on the other side of it. Because they truly go psycho. They can be incredibly violent. But it's funny. I used to have individuals like that. So I didn't have to watch my back. They would F you up in a heartbeat. But I don't know where any of them are anymore. Hopefully they're okay. But it's funny. It was just an unwritten rule with them that they just watch my back. And so I always remembered and I always appreciated and have an incredible fondness for them. I felt very safe when I went over to their places. But again, these are girls that grew up in the streets and they didn't take any shit. So you truly wouldn't want to be on their wrong side. But I'm down here, and we got a JJ's, a Jimmy John, Why don't they put Freaky Fast? See the JJ's right there? Do you see anything that says Freaky Fast? But the problem is statement, action. And the commercial loses its glamour when people don't get their stuff quickly. So when you say these things and you don't deliver, then the commercial doesn't have any zing or catch. But if they hear the commercial again and they're like, oh yeah, I need food, I'm going to order from Jimmy John's. They're freaky fast. They really do deliver quickly. So when you live up to the hype and you mention it, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to choose Jimmy John's. So, but if you don't live up to the hype, and Domino's did this with 30 minutes or less in deliveries, and they delivered to too large of a radius, and they gave the pizza for free, but they ended up giving free, they had to cancel the promotion. Clients were really upset. I got things to do and so on, and people ordered, and like, you said it'd be here in 30 minutes. I don't care about the free pizza. I wanted my food. I had something planned. I need to go. The reason I ordered from you is because you told me, and truly, you told me you'll be here in 30 minutes or less. And now, cancel my order. I got to go to the show. And screw your free pizza. That's why they canceled. Because people were turning away, giving them free pizza. They didn't care. The frustration was so great that a free pizza didn't do shit for them. So in hospitality, you're like, oh, I'll buy you a drink. And that only depends on how frustrated I am. I'm like, I'm going to buy you. Screw your drink. I'm never coming back. So I lived through these things. I met client and exceeded client expectations. And you know what my ex-Jen used to say? Under promise, over deliver. But you got to beat the competition. So anything they promised, they knew they could deliver faster. Any job they did, they always, and Real Foundation always delivered it on time or less time. They never exceeded. They always exceeded expectations. Never under, always over. That meant repeat business, and it grew. They started it up, and they've grown because they underpromise and overdeliver all the time with all of their clients. How many people have that model? Every single one of my clients, that was my model. I always overdelivered. Every single time. I over-delivered. I never disappointed. I don't have a single client that I ever disappointed. I always over-delivered. I had one client that didn't do what I said, and I tried to get things corrected, but that was on him. I gave him everything, and I would have canceled it myself. But I told him everything to do. And I told him you have to cancel the automatic debit for the term policy. You have to turn things off yourself. Or you have to send in, here's a cancellation letter, and send it in to the company and terminate the policy. Truly, I had all this, and they're like, oh no, I'll have my wife, and that's what he said, I'll have my wife stop the debit. And then he kept on paying for it because his wife never stopped the debit. Well, I learned from that mistake, and I made sure my assistant followed up on everything. Did you terminate the debit? Did you send in the letter? Let me call the company and see if they canceled the policy. So I learned and had KJ, I put in even more systems. I over-delivered and did everything, but still, it fell through the cracks. Still, it ended up the client upset at me. It wasn't my fault. But I'm not going to sit there and blame his wife. So I tried the insurance company, and I went in and asked for favors and everything, and they said, no, we would have paid out the $750,000 in death benefit. Would they have given us the $750,000 back if he died? That's what they said. And I'm like, probably not. They're not going to say, here's the money back. We meant to cancel the policy. They would say, wow, what a windfall. We have $750,000 we didn't know. Oh, you forgot to cancel the policy. I'll give you Eric Isabu, his brother. This is how somebody made millions. They thought he was a smart guy. He was an idiot. He was trading options, and his brother forgot to close out the position one night. And Eric was lucky because it could have went against him millions. But what happened? The position had a substantial change overnight, and he walked in the next day as a multi-millionaire. And right away, they saw the position. He closed out the position. And let me tell you about one-hit wonders. He closed out the position. Now he's a multi-millionaire, and he acts as a big shot. He never made money trading options again. And then I helped him open this place, Clearwater. Now, here's a black kid. And I told him I got him free tap system. That costs a lot. The Glyco, the refrigerated tap system. I got him free soda guns. I got him all kinds of things. Jen created this beautiful architectural rendering of the venue and everything. And his mother and father were mulatto. And his sister, his youngest sister, she has a beautiful voice. She could have been featured at the venue. She sings great, and she was beautiful. Older sister was more savvy, but not in the hospitality industry. She doesn't know how to run a bar or a club, and she floundered. But still, good person, have no problem. And his other brother, good, no problem. Eric, he was the big shot. And what happened? This is the one-hit wonder. He blew through that money. He was doing drugs and alcohol, blew through the money, and then imploded Clearwater in West Dundee, imploded it. And then I found out he owed the village a ton of money. And also, I talked about river dredging in West Dundee and creating off of Clearwater boat docks. And we could get the state to dredge, and then they needed a parking garage. And I knew the guys that did bond issues, and we could have had a bond issue for Dundee. They needed a parking garage to bring more people into the downtown area. And I was in to get a multi-story parking garage built right there. All this for the village. And Eric ended up screwing the village, and he owed them tons of money. Not only that, he screwed his brother and sister. He screwed his mother and father. Oh, he imploded things. He took all their money with him, too. He was a one-hit wonder. He didn't earn anything. He made money by a pure accident. So when you give somebody something, they have no ability to maintain it. True grit. They have to have the true ability to be able to perform, to be able to maintain it. So that's what Jen supposedly had, true grit. So God thought, she would perform, meaning gave her a chance. She wanted a chance. As she said, she needed me. She wanted me. And so I gave her a chance. God wanted her to have a chance. Don't disappoint me, I told her. I told her, I've had all these people in my life disappoint me, fail me, continuously fail me. And she said, I've never broken a promise, and I promise you I'll never fail you. I'll keep my commitments. Here's the Aon Center. Aon's an insurance company. This used to be Standard Oil. Does Aon issue insurance companies to oil pipelines and all that? Are they in that? And are they doing geothermal for their rigs and liability insurance and so on? Truly. Lots in geothermal, wind, solar, hydrogen fuel cells, biofuel. Lots of areas that Aon can go into, right? We have Horton here and some other groups that are big in this. Mercer. So Aon, you think, are they in that, right? There's a club up there at the top of the Aon that I was thinking about becoming a member, and those people were super good to me. That my friend Kimmy, she's a black woman, and she was super good to me. And I was in the joint. My friend Jack was part of it and everything else, but I was waiting, and eventually I was going to join it because I liked the view, I liked the food. I went to several events, and it was a private dining club, and they have another one in the Sears Tower. So they have the Aon building and the Sears Tower. But they could get one in the John Hancock and reopen, that dining area and have these elite rooms. Like it's the University Club. I went up there in their dining room at the top, and it has a beautiful view of Millennium Park. And I ate there, and it had a great hamburger. So does the Drake Hotel actually have a really good hamburger. They have in the basement. This place used to have this building right here. Swedish Chamber of Commerce I was part of. And most of the guys, I played floor hockey with them. Do you know? All of them play floor hockey. The guys and girls played floor hockey. Oh yeah, the guys and girls, I played floor hockey. And we played at North Park College. But most of them went to the University of Chicago. But the Swedish Chamber of Commerce is here, and they all play floor hockey. You think the Chicago Blackhawks would be big. My high school, we grew up playing floor hockey. And then Andrew Coleman and that, we used to go over to his house after we were out of high school. We used to go over to Coleman's house with Piazzi and others and play floor hockey in Andrew's basement, which was his mother's basement. He was still in college. But we play floor hockey all the time. And none of the sticks said Chicago Blackhawks or anything on them, or the Pucks. They weren't into that business. It didn't make any sense. The Chicago Wolves can get into that business. But they weren't in that business. And I loved playing floor hockey. And all the intramural teams. Deerfield High School had intramural teams. Our high school had lots of intramural sports teams. My University of Arizona, they had intramural football teams and intramural, all kinds of, for students, intramural. Just students playing other students. So they had big intramural sports programs. My high school did. People after school, I used to go by because I was in the intramural between schools. The intermural is within the school. But I would see them in the gym playing floor hockey. And the intramural league and intermural league, the INTER, not the INTRA, intra, that's between schools. The inter is within. So, anyways, but you think they would do this in the high school? These are for geeks. These are for geeks. Like Google employees, the geeks, the people that aren't the greatest athletes. But it's fun, and they had fun playing it, and it's a safe game. You wear gym shoes, and you have the little puck. Sometimes they use a ball instead of a flat puck. And they play it, and they have the plastic sticks and everything. There's no wooden sticks. So everything is designed so it doesn't hurt. And the ball could be a Nerf ball, and the puck could be a Nerf puck. So when it hits you, it compresses and doesn't hurt. It might sting a little bit, but it can't hurt you. So the whole point was designing things so they can't get hurt. And then there's rollerblade hockey, which they used to play on the lakefront, inline skating. But you know, you can have regular rollerblades and play hockey too. The 4 wheels, not inline skates, but traditional rollerblades. And you can play hockey with that as well. But you can have, they used to have the inline skating, but I didn't see any of the sports teams, the Hawks or the Chicago Wolves and that, sponsoring it. I didn't even see Northwestern in that, getting down into the elementary schools and high schools. Northwestern, their hockey team. They're in the Midwest. They should have a collegiate hockey team. So should DePaul. You know, you're in the Midwest. This is winter. We should be a very big hockey market. So I don't see Northwestern or DePaul in that, and they can do. Their kids get out, they play on the teams, and they get out and they go to the high schools and they go to the elementary schools supporting their programs. Because one day they might think, oh, I want to be a Chicago Blue Demon. I want to be a Chicago DePaul Blue Demon and play for their hockey team. Or I want to be a Northwestern University Wildcat and play for their hockey team. But this is a way they get out, the universities get out there and they interact. How about North Park College, North Park University? It's the same thing. They can have outreach into the community, and they help with these, develop these programs and that, and then their kids grow up and say, hey, you know, I like North Park College or North Park University. I think I might go there. I liked it. I think it's a very good school. My coach, Andy Ferrisy, he played football for North Park University, and he coached at Notre Dame, and he coached us, but he coached also at big programs, and then he was the head coach for Stevenson. So, again, it's a way for them to touch the high schools and elementary schools to create awareness of getting them to think long term, where am I going to go to school after high school? It's the same thing with trade schools. And Northwestern University can have trade schools. Why can't a university have trade schools? There is no reason that a formal university can't have trade schools. I think Northwestern, Illinois Institute of Technology, and all that should have trade schools. Even culinary schools, you say, you don't want to be a full-blown chef. Maybe you just want a certification or a designation. They should offer that. That's a trade. So they should offer these capabilities. Why wouldn't you? So again, you can go into like bartending school. That's a trade school. I went to bartending school. They should have trained at bartending school cocktail waitresses and servers. At bartending school. Why? Because the bartender deals with cocktail waitresses and servers. I dealt with both as a bartender. Servers from our dining room, cocktail waitresses from our cocktail area. So those bartending schools can create certification programs for cocktail waitresses and servers, and they can come in and learn the drink order and how to serve the tables and that, and the bartenders can watch them and learn about their table service and that, and how to properly interact with a cocktail waitress, how to properly interact with a food server. Truly. And then they can train barbacks. Oh yeah, barbacks. Bartending school can train barbacks. They have to stock the coolers and that, and then bartending schools can train porters. Porters clean the floors and change out the trash cans and all that, and do table maintenance. And that's all going on in bartending school. So literally, you're running a training class for barbacks, bartenders, cocktail waitresses, servers, and porters, all simultaneously. Because why? They have to interact together. Sometimes you have a specialized class just for the porters, just for the barbacks, just for the bartenders, just for the cocktail, just for the food server. But a lot of time, you have to interact, and a bartender has to interact. And then they have to talk about tipping. And how do you tip out the porter? How do you receive tips from the cocktail waitress and receive tips from the food servers? Because bartenders don't tip out cocktails or food servers. They receive from food servers and they receive from cocktail waitresses. But they tip out to the porters and they tip out to the barbacks. So how do they do that? It's like here. How do the girls on the floor for this dance club, I forget the name of it, Pink Monkey, or I don't know the name of it, but it's a girl club where guys go and get entertained, voodoo. So how do the girls know what to tip out the bartenders? And the girls are going to have to tip out the people that support them. And so you can have a training class for those girls, teaching them. They have to learn dance routines. They have to learn how to maintain proper hygiene. They have to maintain how do they clean themselves after a customer. Truly, how do you, do these things between customers, right? Is there any hygiene required between interacting with customers? I don't know, there could be. Maybe you just spray yourself down with a little sanitizer. There's hand sanitizer, but there can be like peppermint oil or something else. Not something that doesn't hurt the clothing or the skin, but also is antibacterial, antimicrobial. And so it's good for them, and it has a good scent, and it's good for the customers when they rub on them, right? When they rub on the customers, they're decontaminating the customers. So the customer can't hurt you, and you clean the customer. Yeah, when they're like rubbing on the body or whatever, they're actually cleaning you. And then they reapply to themselves. So literally, they make the customer, and like they can serve certain drinks when you get there, like at the table, like they do in Japanese, they have the hand hot rolls, truly the hand rolls, and you have to use them. The hot towel rolls that come in with lemon and that smell great, and you have to use them. You sit down at the table or the bar, and they give you a hand roll, and you have to clean your hands, and then they give you a lotion. They give you a lotion, and that lotion moistens your hands, but also it's an antimicrobial. And that's part of it. And they give you a little drink that's like ginger or something else. And, you know, it's just part of the cover at the door. So there's a fee at the door, and that part of that fee goes for these services. That it's part of it entering, so you have to do these hygienic components or you can't stay in the club. And if you have a medical condition that you can't get lemon or something else, tell us. There might be some alternative, but it's very rare that somebody has a sensitivity to that. But I'm saying there could be the rare exception, and you have to deal with it. But that's an exception. 99.9% of the people won't need the exception. So they have this, and it's standardized. You pay your 10 or 20 bucks at the door, and it's to protect you and to protect them. So when you go in there, you're protected and they're protected. So again, and the bathrooms, they can offer wet wipes. So again, they can offer these things so they can protect them and they can be protected. So again, when they do this, they can have these procedures. And I don't understand. When I go to a diner and I sit down at the table, why don't they just give me a hand wipe? Truly, so I can clean my hands off at the table. They had these little ones that you stick in, and they were in plastic, and you take them out, and they're disposable, not towels, but they were lemon already packaged, and they had them at sushi bars, but that should be standard at every place. Some things are just best practices, and you go in and they give it to you, whether it's a McDonald's or not, and you have to cleanse your hands. It's just part of being hygienic. Certain things need to be mandatory. As we move in the world where we're going to touch people, like at a sporting event, when you purchase food, they give you a hand wipe. Yes, they need to give you napkins too, but when you're at the sporting event, they give you a hand wipe. Truly. They have hand sanitizer available as well, but they give you a hand wipe. See, hand sanitizer doesn't remove dirt, so you need the hand wipe, and then you can use the sanitizer afterwards, and it can have vitamin E and other things in it. But they need to do this for public interaction. So this is the Roosevelt Collection coming across from the new stadium, and I like this place. I even thought about moving in here, but I don't have any money right now. But I'm looking forward to the build out of the 78. So again, let's go by the University of Chicago and their ice thing they have for NBC, since I'm down here. But it's wonderful, and you have here, and they can do it in Chinatown. Truly, when you get there at the table, sit down and you clean your hands in that, and then you dispose of it. Truly, they come by and they have a little thing and you dispose of it. But that's very minimal cost, and it's with lemon and that and so on, and you can have a ginger tea or whatever that could be, help cleanse the mouth. If you have some type of virus or anything, that it does truly. Something you take like a mouthwash, but this is something you can swallow that's good for the stomach and digestive tract. But they can have that. You pay. It's part of the cover. At the stadium, it's part of the ticket. Whether you're going to a baseball game and that, part of the ticket is they have these certain things. Like part of the ticket at the Cubs game is you have good bathrooms. So when I go to places and restaurants, part of my food cost is a good bathroom. And you say, I worked at Lowe's and Phoenician and many other areas, and our bathrooms were spotless. Our bathrooms had proper soap, had proper towels, were immaculate. Part of the fee of going there was a good, clean bathroom. So I don't get it. When I get a ticket for a sporting event, I expect that to be spink and span. Truly. Like the Cubs I went to Soldier Field during the second breakdown one time for a game, and I went in a bathroom and they had a black kid who was a bathroom attendant, and the bathroom I went and it looked very clean and it was well maintained. Shouldn't that be expected? Shouldn't that be expected, that the bathroom is clean and well maintained? It's maintained. And, making sure no one's doing any funny business in the bathroom. When I was at Export on Logan, we had cops that were in the bathroom, the men's locker room. And I became friends with all the cops at work, but there was a Chicago cop. His job was to stay in the men's locker room. Number one, to make sure no one was breaking into any of the lockers. The lockers had locks, but they had a Chicago police they paid at Export that worked the men's locker room, making sure no one's breaking in, making sure everybody's following the rules of the club. He would go up. You can't be on your phone. So they had a security officer who worked the locker room. And I got to be friends with all those Chicago cops that worked for Export, and they worked in the locker room. My friend, he's Hispanic, he worked for Portillo's. But you actively see him. You see the badge and you see the gun. So when I went to Portillo's, he worked in one here in Chicago, Ontario. I go in, he'd say hi to me and that. I know him from Export, but he had a second job as a Chicago cop. But you see the badge and the gun. It's a deterrent itself. So there is proper shows of force. Like we had at Navy Pier, and we had at Baja, we had mall security. And the guy who ran mall security was an ex-Marine. And he was a hard ass. And me and him got along perfectly. His second in charge was a black guy. But it was a good pairing. Why? The white guy, he's very abrasive. But the black guy, he was more charismatic, more jolly, more friendly, but still sticking to the rules, but he was a softener. He was just more better with his social skills. Not a stickler, but, he knew how to smooth people better. He was a smoozer. But we had no problem. So at Baja, when I had a problem, I could call in mall security. So I always had extra backup besides my doorman. And they had billy clubs. Mall security carried billy clubs. Now they can have tasers and billy clubs. But mall security, they carried handcuffs, they carried billy clubs, they carried mace, and now they can carry tasers. But back then they had mace, handcuffs, and billy clubs. And they were ex-military. And this is mall security. But they were ex-military. They knew how to handle themselves, and I used them all the time if I had problems. And they had no problem helping me. I was good to them. They were very good to me. So I had lots of backup, plus I could just call in a lot of cops, and they responded instantly. If I called, they were there in a heartbeat. Their response time, minute, two, truly, they were right there, right away. So I had my security, I had mall security, and I had the police that were right there on the spot. So I had lots of security. And they were very responsive to me. So any problem, we ended in a heartbeat. And they weren't hesitant to take out the billy club and whack you. And no, I never heard them getting sued for excessive force. Remember what they did with, what's the name? The black guy, the LA riots. But what were they beating him with? Billy clubs. So I watched mall security. They carried billy clubs. And they knew how to use the billy club. And they were ex-military. And who ran my valet at Baja? Now, he was a Hispanic guy, but he was a Cook County sheriff. Do you know we never had anything stolen from any of our valet cars when I was there? He went through the background checks of all his employees, and he would throw them in jail himself. He was an active Cook County sheriff, but he ran the valet service. And if any of his guys stole anything, he would be the first to throw them in jail. And they knew that. He was a big stickler for the rules. And he did background checks on all his personnel. And he told them that if I catch you, I'm a cop already. I'm going to bust you myself and throw you in jail and get the prosecutor to hit you with a serious maximum charge. They didn't steal anything. And you know how many cars we parked? We never had a problem with our valet at Baja. Ever. And the valet wasn't near the front door either. Our valet was down the block. We didn't want congestion outside the front door with the cars. So you entered into the mall and walked down the mall and entered in through the mall side, not the street side. But the valet was nowhere near the front door. That way we didn't congest the front door. We kept the valet away from the front door. And it worked out well that way. And people didn't mind. They walked like, you say a quarter block. Something like that. But, again, he was a sheriff and he ran the valet, and he would tell his people that if you steal, I'm going to throw you in jail. So the person you need to be feared of most is me if you do anything wrong. Because I'm going to be all over you and bust you and throw the book at you. Why? You're hurting my business. You're pissing off my clients. And we could terminate his contract. So he let them know that he was the one they had to fear the most. And he would be watching them. And if any funny business went on, he would be putting them in jail. You mess with my meal, you mess with my business, I'm going to destroy you. So you just have to worry about me. So, yes, he threatened them in that way. But truly, it's just a reminder. If anything, if you're doing, I'm going to be the one that busts you, and I'm going to throw the book at you. You're messing with my business and my living and my family and my future, and I'm going to destroy you. Wouldn't any business owner think the same? Like Chris and Dean, when they had one of their employees stealing from them, and I told them on the handle, but Chris and Dean is like, you're stealing from me? You're taking food off of my table? You're taking food away from my family? And Chris and Dean were furious. They were good. And Chris and Dean were good to their employees. But they caught that guy through the camera, through an integrated system, since Dean is a technology guy. And Chris is a martial artist, and he wanted to beat the living hell out of them. And Dean got me to talk Chris out of kicking the living hell out of him. Truly, you fire him, you get a record, you call the police, you get him put in jail. That is punishment enough when they come and he shows up to work and the police are there waiting to arrest him. And then you're turning over your video and everything to the prosecutor to prosecute them, and then you testify in court against them. You testify in court against them. So think about what message that sends to the rest of your employees when they see one of your employees walking out in handcuffs. That the police didn't, you as the owner busted them, you had the film, you ordered them to be arrested, you gave them the evidence, and they're putting them in jail. Think about what the rest of your employees think. It's like Uber. Uber should be the first to have their employees thrown in jail. They should be calling the cops on their own employees. Because insurance companies, that's a failure of a duty under many liability clauses. So if I was Uber and I saw my employees doing certain things, I'd be calling the cops on them myself. And I'd be like, yeah, I just have all this information. 911, I want my Uber driver. He's blank at this. I want you to put him in jail. He just did this violation. And I will give you all the information, and I will pass it on. I will testify in court, and I will work with the prosecutor to prosecute him. Go and arrest him now! So I wouldn't hesitate in turning somebody over to the SEC or FINRA. Like, you're trying to destroy my business, and I won't have it. Unlike Nick, he fired the guy. I would have turned the guy over to FINRA and let him deal with it. And Nick took all the backlash, but he didn't do the right thing. They're paid to be the bad guys. If I was Nick, I'd be on the phone. Yeah, I have my planner over here doing these illegal things, and I need him arrested. So if you can send in the FBI or who's ever responsible, he'll be in the office tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'd like you to shortly after show up and put him in jail. And I will be cooperating and testifying and turning over the state evidence. Mess with my business. Make my business have a liability. Jamie Dimon did that with the whale. He should have had the FBI bust him. it was a big problem for Chase. And if I was Jamie Dimon, I would have been turning over state's evidence and having the guy put in jail for a long time. He could have seriously caused Chase problems, just like the managers who were doing the illegal securities flipping, which I don't believe he knew anything about, just like happened at Washington Mutual, not Washington Mutual, but the other bank, Wells Fargo. If I would have had them bust them. I want them taken out in handcuffs. I want to show my clients I'm serious about protecting their money, protecting their information. I want it to be on the news. Wells Fargo did an internal sting and busted 67 employees for illegally using client information. And here they are walking out of the different branches, and Wells Fargo, through their compliance, have integrated new security procedures and upgrade, but no information was distributed because Wells Fargo did an internal sting and busted their own employees and turned over everything for them to be prosecuted. So they'll never be in the banking industry again and have access to client information and make you at jeopardy again. Wells Fargo will make sure they're blacklisted and never work in this industry again. That's what I would do to a dirty cop. If I was a commander or that, I would turn them over and tell internal affairs, throw away the key. Do you want a dirty cop who has lots of motives to let things slip and set you up on a crime scene? Like, oh yeah, that Denzel Washington movie. But cops should be watching that and think, what does he do? He's a clean cop. He's a good guy. He turns them over to the gang to kill. He leaves them at the table with them, and they're told to kill him. And they take him in the bathtub to blow out his brains and then chop up his body. And the only thing that saves him is that he saved his sister from being raped. Now, watching those movies, all those movies with those dirty cops or those dirty politicians, and how they have the other politician get set up and go under. Why would you want to have dirty politicians around you? I would be giving them up for a sting and throwing them away. You're going to jeopardize me and everything, and then I do the right thing, and you're going to try to, off me? These are serious situations where they do happen, and it has happened. It's better to throw the evil person under the bus and save yourself and those around you. And it sends a big message when you have them marched out in front of all the staff in handcuffs. What happened at Belly's? One of the membership guys, he was a black guy. These are all true stories. It just happens to be that way. I didn't pick out who the characters were, who the people were by race or anything. I'm just telling you what truly happened and who they happened to be. So, I guess he was taking all the information off of the membership forms. When he signed people up for memberships, they would put down credit cards and all that. And so he was selling off the information for identity theft and then selling off the credit card information for credit card scams. And as I was walking in one day and I knew him, no, I wasn't friendly with him at all. But he was in handcuffs. And I knew all the people, and they're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, yeah. He's been selling off customer information for identity theft and selling off customer credit card information for credit card scams. And he's been doing it for a blank period of time. I think a year or 2 years. This was the membership person. And they walked him out in front of all the other employees. And believe me, they got scared. And I would be telling them, do you want to be like them? If I catch any of you and I find out, you'll be walking out in handcuffs too like them. Right in front of everybody. Public shaming in front of all your fellow colleagues. They all know who you are and what you did. And I would be parading you in front of them. Making sure when they put the handcuffs on, everybody sees you. Just like they did in Wall Street. They came in and he told them not to do it. And he came in and right in front of everybody. And he's like, yep, I knew he was going to jail. But the thing is, right in front of everybody, public shaming. They wanted everybody to know to send a message. This is an example. So, great shaming. It's supposed to traumatize them. That's the point. So you don't get it. Just like Flynn and all that. They were on the paper and everything else. Lying to the FBI. So I watch. If I saw somebody tainting food, I would call 911 immediately. I told people I work with that I would throw them in jail if I caught anyone tainting food. Truly. And I swear to God, I would throw them in jail immediately if they tampered with the food in any way, shape, or form. The food or beverage, I'd be calling 911 right on the phone. I'm like, I'm here working at Lowe's Fontana Canyon, and I have an employee I just witnessed tainted a beverage. I dealt with this at Baja, that they said somebody was putting Visine in a drink to make people shit because they didn't tip well. Well, confiscating all the Visine. If you don't, you're not allowed on the floor with it. I don't know if it's true or not. But the thought of somebody tainting a drink because they were disgruntled because somebody didn't tip them correctly. So, believe me, I was on their ass. And there was no more talk of it. So, if you did these things, I would F you up. Your ass would be grass, and I would be doing it. I didn't care if you were my friend. I told the cop to throw L. He was my roommate and friend, and he pissed on a doorway. And I told him to go downstairs in the club. It was still open. And he was pissing on the side of a building. And a cop pulled up, and it was a sergeant. And I told him, throw the piece of shit in jail. I didn't tell him, oh, I told him to go downstairs. I told him not to piss outside. And the cop pulled up, but the cop gave him just a warning. I was pissed. I kept on telling him, throw him in jail. I don't want you to give him a verbal warning. I want you to lock up the piece of shit. He's a drug addict, an alcoholic, and I want him to have a come to Jesus moment. Throw him in jail. But he's like, no, I'm just giving him verbal warning. He got in the car. He didn't say shit to me. I did tell him he should have been in jail. I want you in jail. So that's my own friend. Just like Mike Whitehead, I told him, if I caught him with any drugs, I would put him in jail immediately. Mike Whitehead emptied his pockets, showed me, never brought drugs around me. That was it. I was done. I told him, if I ever catch you, I gave you grace, no more grace. If I ever catch you with drugs around me, I'm taking you to jail myself. I'm going to drive you right to the police station and put you in jail myself. If you ever come around me with any drugs. He got the message. Ross was right there, another friend of mine. I was dead serious. And that went for Ross as well. So they never came around me with any drugs anymore. But I wasn't kidding. But I gave them fair warning, and I told them I'm dead serious. And they knew I was dead serious because I'd be picking up the phone and throwing them in jail. Or holding them myself and throwing them in jail. Giving them the come to Jesus moment they need. So you go soft. I went the other way. I don't give these pieces of shit grace anymore. You're wrong about what you're doing. And I've been threatening them and bringing them, and I have zero tolerance for them. So you put these homeless, you get them off the street. One way or another. So this has been going on for a long time. I gave them, here's the carrot, and if they didn't, I'm calling the police. So one way or another, you're not going to be on the street anymore. My friend Pete did that with the drug dealers on the corner. Just constantly, every time they were there, he'd call the police, and they get eventually busted, and they were gone. He cleaned up his whole neighborhood. He watched the corners, and if he saw anyone doing anything illegal, he'd call the police. Same thing they did by my corner when they built the Home Depot. Home Depot told them get rid of all the illegal action on the street. They had paddy wagons out there, and they put people away. But they're supposed to turn them to a diversion program. Not release them, but put them in a diversion program. So, I don't get it. So, I don't have tolerance for them. So, you're totally wrong. And I have a lot of witnesses. I was sick and tired of it. I don't tolerate it. Yeah, Belly's Casino. So, why would you tolerate it? Because eventually you could be the victim. Eventually it could destroy your family. Truly, it destroys your family internally. So I don't think, Kenny Williams feels too good about his son, who got fired from New York Life for stealing, lying, cheating. Which was a big shock to me because New York Life thought, wow, Kenny Williams' son, this is going to be a great opportunity. He knows all these athletes and connected. Well, just like Junior Seau his brother was a gangbanger in Samoan gangs in California, and he was trying to get him out of the Samoan gangs. He wanted to destroy the Samoan gangs. Oh, he wanted them busted. He wanted those people that were running it put away. He wanted an end to the Samoan gangs. They recruited his brother, and he was trying to figure out how to keep his brother out of the gangs. God rest his soul. He ended up killing himself. But he was for dismantling the Samoan gangs. Go ahead, pull it up. It should be in news articles. That's how I got about it. So he wanted to take them all down, making his life hell, his brother on the wrong path. Here he has all this opportunity and all these good things he can do, and his brother decides to hook up with some gangs. Not what he projected or thought would happen with his brother. So, again, I wish he lived. It's a shame that he died. Truly, Dave Duerson was another good person. And he donated his brain to end CTE, to science. But I see these good people and they make me cry that they're so against evil, but society doesn't stand with them. Society stands against them, and they end up killing themselves. I would rather Junior Osera be around and Dave Duerson be around and these scumbags be put away. So the NFL, are they going to have a come to Jesus moment? Or are they going to have more Hernandez that deals with criminals and kills people because he was influenced by criminals, as Derrick Rose was, hanging around a bunch of gangbangers? And where did his career go? Right down the toilet. So you think D. Rose would be repenting and being an advocate to wiping out gangs in black neighborhoods? My hood, my block, I'm going to kick your gang ass. Truly. They have to give it up, just like the cops in New York. They said either you give it up or you go to jail. I'll give you diversion if you repent. It's the same way in the Bible. You have to repent and atone, and then I'll give you diversion. It works the same way. You don't give diversion if they don't repent and atone. Then they go bye-bye or to eternal damnation, or here we put them away for the rest of their life, never to be seen from again. So again, I watch these people, these good people, die. It's like Bruce Wayne and Batman. I understand the story because I've seen it truly happen. His father and mother against criminal activity in Gotham. And they kill him to stop his anti-crime movement. They kill the husband. They kill his father. They kill his mother to stop them from being tough on crime. Seems like that's what you're doing to me. Let the scumbags get away with it. And the good people always. That's why that story so resonates with me, Batman. I got stuck up as a child, 5 years old or something, with a gun pointed at the back of my head. Well, the guy robbed my father, a taxi cab driver. It was a snowy night. The police They were trying to stay warm. But for us, picking up people, they go usually great distances. It was a good night for cab drivers. Well, he knew that too. The criminal knew that we would have a lot of money on hand. And we did. And we gave it to him. That guy was a white guy. And we dropped him off in an alley. And he went down the alley. My dad never filed the report. He told me we just need to stand out and make enough money to cover the cost of the cab. And we're not going to make any money tonight. And I'm like, okay. But my dad made sure I was protected. So I know my dad's in heaven. But again, why are all these good people getting plowed under? Like Pat Tillman and Chris Kyle. I think of the ineptitude of the military. And I think of their diversion programs when the soldiers come out. That they shouldn't have them doing certain things. So, and these people were approved to work with Chris Kyle. Who did he get them from? The VA. The Veterans Association referred them to him. And remember in the movie, the tape where he's with the therapist, and he's like, there's a lot of people in the Veterans Association that need to be saved. And so you can save these people. And he's like, I can? Okay, I'll work with you. And he did. And he got referrals. That guy was referred to him by the Veterans Association, by the therapist, who I have no respect for. But those people weren't Chris picking random guys. These people were referred to them by the therapist at the Veterans Association, that they were cleared to work with him, and they knew his program and what he did. And so who failed? The psychologist, the Veterans Association failed. That's who killed Chris Kyle. They killed him. They wanted him to do the program. He signed up. And they failed to protect him. And if I was his wife, I would be suing the VA and the U.S. government if I could. Their idea, their responsibility, they failed. What a piece of shit organization. I blame them for Chris Kyle's death. And I blame the military for Pat Tillman's. Military intelligence, look at MASH. They laugh at it all the time. And it turned out their intelligence sucked. And look at 9/11, one of the biggest intelligence failures, and we had intelligence agencies telling us something big was going to happen. We had foreign intelligence agencies telling our intelligence agencies something big was going to happen. Chatter was high. Our agency dismissed it and didn't handle it correctly. So, you think foreign intelligence agencies were doing a false flag? They're supposed to turn over that stuff to the FBI, the CIA. And they're supposed to be working with military intelligence. The CIA is supposed to work hand in hand with military intelligence. But when they get a domestic, they have to turn over to the FBI and certain things. If it's weapons, it's the FBI, the ATF. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Usually firearms are involved. So that means the FBI and ATF are involved. So wherever firearms are, ATF agents are. So all these shootings in Chicago, the ATF should be working with the Chicago Police Department to address these issues. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. They should be addressing the issues related to alcohol, related to the cigarette taxes and everything, running the scams on cigarette taxes. That's all the ATF, and they're supposed to be working as a joint task force with the Chicago Police Department, trying to clean up firearms in the city. So these agencies are supposed to work joint task force, cooperating. Like Murray runs the narcotics unit for the Illinois State Police. Well, they're supposed to work with the county and the city. And they're supposed to work as a joint task force. That's the point of Homeland Security. But they also work with the DEA. Marijuana and all of that is the Drug Enforcement Agency. So they're supposed to work from the federal, the state, the county, the local. There's more than enough law enforcement. And the point of Homeland Security is they work together as a well-organized team, solving the problems. So you get cocaine in the nightclub, that's a DEA thing. Not only Chicago, not only Cook County, but also the state of Illinois. Besides the federal government. They all want to know. Because once it moves outside the city, where is it coming from outside the city? Like a drug dealer I know came into the city, came from Park Ridge. Chicago police don't have jurisdiction, but Cook County does. And then moving between counties from Cook County to DuPage, that's the state of Illinois Police Department. They're the state drug task force is looking for people moving things between counties. And then the DEA is looking for people moving things between states. Really, where the DEA is looking for people moving things into a state and out of a state. That's what they're looking for. So they're working with Border Patrol, but the state borders, the U.S. borders, they're looking for, the DA is supposed to be they're looking for people moving things between states, whether it's money or drugs, and if it's money, that's the Treasury. So once the DA finds out drug dealers do money laundering, that's the U.S. Treasury Services. So the DA now is working with the Treasury because all drug dealers use money. And so that's the Department of Treasury. So the DA is working with the Treasury, who's working with the Border Patrol. And so you have these interdepartmental task force. But does President Trump talk about how these things are supposed to work together seamlessly to get full protection? And then you have intelligence agencies in the National Guard. And National Guards really worry about state borders. That's why every state has a National Guard. They're really worrying about the borders, not the state police as much, the National Guard. They're supposed to secure the borders. So The National Guard from Illinois works with the National Guard of Indiana, Wisconsin, Missouri, and so on. And they watch the borders. They watch the movements. And then they bring in the DEA or others that once they watch money cross lines, and yes, the National Guard is watching money transfers too. Things that go from state to state. They're watching the border. Are you like an emergency vehicle? So everything's in place. Because if you found out in Arizona, and you probably don't know, but the Arizona National Guard, they're people smuggling through the desert. And that's supposed to be the National Guard watching that movement. Those tunnels coming in, the California National Guard is supposed to be working with Border Patrol in those tunnels coming in, or the water crossing from Texas, from Mexico into Texas. Oh yeah, they cross via the water. If you don't know, one guy disappeared. He was out fishing one day, and his wife said the cartels got him because they run boats across from Mexico into Texas, and this is the shortest point. And I believe the cartels got him. Well, that's the National Guard. They're working with Border Patrol. They're working with the Coast Guard, because that's in the Gulf of Mexico too. And there's the Coast Guard getting it. And when it goes out deeper, that's the U.S. military. So many miles offshore is the U.S. military making sure they don't get into the interwaters between us. So the Coast Guard protects the water from the shore to, I think it's 5 miles off coast. And then the military watches everything, making sure it doesn't get into Coast Guard territory. And if it does, it works with the Coast Guard to apprehend. But the Coast Guard works with Border Patrol and the National Guard to secure tunnels, planes, drones. So the National Guard is supposed to be securing the airspace, watching for drone movements, working with, the FAA. They're supposed to be working with the FAA in their space. So they log all this. They're supposed to be watching all that, the National Guard, working with the FAA. And they have the capabilities that the state police don't, and that they have military capabilities. They have surface-to-air missiles. They have tanks. They have all kinds of capabilities that are military capabilities, high-level capabilities. So they can shoot anything down. That's who's supposed to be doing it, not the U.S. military, the National Guards working with the military in coordination with the FAA to make sure that things are done correctly. So again, the Drake Hotel, great burgers. But it's a shame that there's not stuff on the, events along the lakefront, like the hot chocolate run. It can be in the winter. And Fleet Feet and that, they can sell all kinds of winter gear. And do you know, boots have to have soft rubber. Gym shoes that you run in the winter have to have soft rubber. Soft rubber. The cold temperatures are going to make them harder. So they have to have very soft rubber. They won't wear because the rubber hardens up. So they won't wear fast, but they'll have traction. You can't sell boots like they do with the bottoms being extremely hard rubber. People slip. My boots need to have soft rubber. It has hard rubber at the bottom. Not good. Hard rubber in cold temperatures gets harder. So go into speed ratings for tires and use that philosophy for the rubber for shoes based on temperature. How the rubber plays out. So use what they use for tires and adapt it for shoes and get a rating system that allows you to know the traction capability of the shoe. Truly, this shoe works good on ice. This shoe works good on snow. This shoe works good in warm temperatures on dry pavement. Why? Because you don't want too much pliability and get ankle rolls. Because the rubber is too soft, the shoe moves. It's the same thing with tires. Integrate that into shoes. The roll, the sidewalls go down to prevent roll. It's just like in the shoes. You have to have stronger and denser, and you have to bring down the sidewalls to prevent roll. If you have too much a raise on the, basketball shoe, it'll cause the ankle to roll. So you lessen the height and you improve the absorbability in that. But it's the same way. So the same way they do with cars to prevent the sidewalls from rolling. These are high performance people that are going jogging and running and sprinting. You don't want the ankle to roll. So again, we have to improve these things. And all the pieces are in place. People say, why now? Because everything's in place. That's why now, Revelations. There was no World Wide Web. There was no United Nations. There was no ability. They're totally wrong. I told people, why God now? It's all based on capability. There's no longer any excuses. Everything can be disseminated globally in a heartbeat. So now is Revelations. And you're going to burn. And I told people that. All that information is incorrect. God waits for capabilities when the time is right. And when the time is right for the change, and you don't change and you don't adapt, then you all perish. So I would be doing God's speed and cleaning things up. Not staying with it, but removing the filth and disgrace and disgust rapidly. That's the point of why now. And I've told this to others with that question with Revelations. I had to understand this. And I finally understood it. Why now? Why me? And it made perfect sense. Because everything's in place. I had to think about the 7 degrees of separation and how close I was to everybody. And I found out that that I was closer to more leaders around the world, 1 to 2 degrees of separation from leaders of countries all over the world, from France to everywhere. I was very close through the people I knew. I was only a degree or a couple degrees of separation from them. Globally. I figured this out years ago when there's a degree of separation thing. And then I looked up the food chain and how many degrees, and then I found out that I was literally connected to all the world's most powerful people by only a degree or two. Kevin Bacon, 7 degrees of separation, while I was only 1 or 2 degrees separated from the most powerful people in the world. Like my friend, she lives next door to Bill Gates and knows Bill Gates. And I had all these like 1 to 2 degrees. And this is all the things that came to my conclusion of understanding who I am and why me. Highly connected, as my friend John Zeef said. I know more billionaires than anyone he's ever seen. He worked on the exchanges and on that. That I have more connection to more billionaires than anyone he's ever known. And the funny thing is, it's true. So everything's in place. And if things don't start changing, I guarantee you upon your death and everybody that is with you will perish. That's what I'm telling you, but that's your choice. But it took me 10 years to come to the conclusion. 10 years of research before I opened my mouth. You think in 16 opening my mouth was a mistake? Opening my mouth took over 10 years of continuous research. I went along being me, but also I had to think back through everything. I had to do a whole summary of my history to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. And nothing you do will ever change my point of view of who I am. You can treat me like the biggest piece of shit, and it doesn't matter. My opinion of who I am will never, ever change. You can kill me. As Jesus' opinion, did his opinion ever change of who he was? No. My opinion will never change. I'm not vocal about it, but on social media, that's really where I kept it vocal. But outside of there, I'm quiet. But you think, like, I'm not. I knew from the beginning that that's the first thing you always try to pull. The crazy card. I told people in my Uber and gave them the rationale. Jesus and the disciples, they would have been considered crazy and lunatics. How could you believe? Well, then, you shouldn't believe in any religion then. Then anyone who believes in a religion is a crazy person. Truly. Then you're nuts. And you should be committed then. Truly. All the priests, all the pastors, all the nuns, they should all be committed. They're scamsters and fraudsters. And they should all be put in institutions, whether mental health institutions or jail. And I truly mean that. So I had to make sure before I opened my mouth. I didn't know when, but then I was told. But also, all my research was done. So my position will never change. You can go about being you, and I'm going about being me. And no matter where I was, I like me. You make me feel like I don't belong to live on this planet anymore, but make no mistake, I have no problems with me. I love me. I love being born a male. I love that I love women and want to be with a woman. I love that. Truly, I get to indulge in something totally different than me. It's a blessing, not a curse. The LGBTQ takes it as a curse. I see it as a blessing that God gave Adam to Eve and Eve to Adam and created heterosexuality. I consider that an incredible blessing. You keep on trying to make it out as some type of curse, that you're wicked. I was listening to, and I forget his name, but 890 WLS, and I don't hear from him anymore, but he had straight guy and somebody from, the LGBTQ, one of their leadership. And they had a debate. And he said, the only thing heterosexuality has that the LGBTQ don't is that procreation, that heterosexuals can have a kid. Besides that, there's no biological or chemical or anything else, and that it's all the same. It's just universal. And so the only thing you have on me is that you can procreate, and that's it. Take out procreation, and we're no different, he said. And I said, untrue. As he brought up, and I would have done a greater job, and I've been proving this out for decades. But they had the debate, and he said, that's not all heterosexuality is about. And you're totally wrong. And he came back. You can grab the tape archive on WLS. You have to go through the archives. It was a while ago. But it was a debate on air, and he won. The straight guy. But I could have gave him even more ammo. But he did a fairly good job of destroying his argument. But that was here in Chicago. But you guys don't know about that. Oh. But we already agreed that we need to get rid of the LGBTQ. So this is over a decade plus ago. That it was already surmised that there's no value and they have to go. So, I don't get it. The war is over. Now the spoils of war, getting rid of them. Righteousness and justice need to prevail. But the funny thing is, I give it applaud because WLS, its talk show is conservative. It used to, I think, had Rush Limbaugh, and it has Mark Lavelle and many others. But it's conservative, unlike the TV station. The radio station is highly conservative. And that's why it aired on the radio station and not the TV station. And it wasn't set up. He was a commentator. And the LGBTQ lost hands down. Surrender. So, anyways, I'm gonna post this video and get food and go home. But wonder why the building isn't getting shoveled. Like the doorman could post a sign and it says, call this number and people in the building are told not to let anyone in and have them notify the doorman. But the doorman can shovel the sidewalk and put up a sign, doing sidewalk maintenance, have phone on me, call me. Or doorman walking hallway, and they put it out, they lock the door, and they put out any deliveries or anything, call me. Call doorman at this number. It's a phone he gets. And so he can do hallway checks and that, which the doorman should do. Leave the front desk, stretch their legs and do. They did that in my building with our security. He post something at the front desk and say, call this number to contact us. Walking the building. So the doorman can walk the building, can walk the parking lot. He walked the parking lot. They walked the floors on the building, checking the doors on the offices. Truly. And if you came in, you had to have a pass card, but you had to sign in at the front desk. And it said, here's the number if you needed to contact him. So the doormen, they can walk the halls, they can shovel the snow, and just put up the contact number. And if you need them, you call them. And they're like, okay, I'll be there. Give me a minute or two. I'm on the 5th floor, take an elevator down, and I'll be right down to assist you. So I'm just saying they can do more than just sit in the seat. And remember, I told you, all the cameras can transfer over to the cell phone. So he can just pull up the screen and lock the screen in, and it shows all the different cameras. As he's walking the floor, every so often, he can glance down at the different screens. And if they have, shape recognition, motion detector, they will flag him. It will, on the screen, it will flash. Detected motion, and then where's the motion in this area, and the camera shows the picture, but it flashes and alerts them. Detected motion. That's why motion detectors detected motion, and it lets them know what area. So you can have alarm systems and monitoring like ADT, all these different homes or businesses, ADT for businesses like 7-Eleven and that, and they can have certain systems to recognize these. You got to train the AI, and it flashes on screen. Now you're going to have motion, right? But the AI can trigger when that person should be alerted to take a closer look at that live feed. So everything, one person could work like 20 screens or 30 screens. Truly. One person can work like 20 to 30 screens. And they just move around looking at the screens. And yeah, they're going to have to take a bathroom break. And they can rotate out with that. So they exchange and they work with a partner, and the partner now is going to look at 60 screens. Only for, 5 minutes. But again, they have to figure it out, and it's not too bad if the AI is working with them. They can work on 30 or 60 screens, like they merge and they're watching their screens as well. I mean, my eye can move across a lot of screens pretty quickly. And you're already trained for what you're looking at. And on the screen, it says 7-Eleven. It says cleaners, close, business hours. Truly. So they know right there on the screen. It says, tagline, 7-Eleven, sports clip, closed. Opening at 8 a.m. And then it shows when it's closing. Closing at 9 p.m. And it says sports clips. So they know sports clip, closing. It's 9 p.m. and the system updates closed. the store hours. It updates it as closed. And so I'll turn around. But the system updates it and it tells them the store so they know what they're watching. Like you can watch a ton of Starbucks in real time. So if something happens, even when it's open, you're still ADT is still watching it. And if something happens in the store, they can reach out to the store or call 911 for them. So again, it can be integrated, and systems like ADT can get into it, more advanced surveillance systems and being able to handle these situations in a more, how do you say, a more diligent manner. So they can watch the ATMs, live feed. People flags it, people coming to the ATM. And they notify that somebody's at the ATM. That's why they say, you're being recorded. And so they can see the person coming to the ATM. Truly. But they can integrate humans with these systems. And since they're watching so many screens, they can get paid a lot of money. Because, if you're watching 30 screens, and how much they pay on a daily basis, for your 8-hour shift, you're getting $3.24, and you're paying them for that live surveillance, but they're not just staring at your screen. And so, 30, 40 screens, you got to figure out the economies of scale. But truly, it seems very practical. If the AI, and you keep on working on bettering the AI and bettering the intelligence that's given to the person working the screen, that you can really have in real time, good protection. So all these places can truly have, let's see right here. I'm going to go in and end the video.